Welcome back to Tech Garage. Now, anytime you do any brake work, you at least want to take your rears off and give it a good visual inspection. We just took our drum off. We're just looking at any kind of signs for leakage. Our wheel cylinders, our axle grease could be leaking. Checking our springs for any stretching or burnish. You can get a spring kit and replace that. We're also looking at our shoe depth to make sure our shoes are in good shape and not cracked. Once we do that, we can just come over. I like to lube the bosses down here so the brakes come out nice and easy. Then what I'll do is I'll take some brake clean and I'll go in there and I'll clean up all the area along with the drum. Then you can put your drum back on. You can use a screwdriver. You can adjust this adapter right here, little adjuster, bring them up. You remember Brian took the caliper off earlier. We need to go bleed this system. Now Brian only opened the fronts, but if you do any work on the brake system in the rears or the fronts, you're going to have to bleed it. What bleeding is, it's simply just removing the air. Air's compressible and liquid's not. So when you pump the pedal and you have air in the system, you're going to get a spongy pedal. Now to do it, we're going to look at 4 different methods. The first one's manual bleeding. You've probably done this before in the driveway. Maybe we can share a few tips for you. But to do manual bleeding, you're going to have a buddy. And we got Brian up in the cab of the truck, and we're going to work together with a line of communication. So what I'm going to ask him to do is pump the pedal. He's going to pump it. The hydraulic fluid is going to pressurize all the way down to the bleed screw here, and then I'm going to open it. We're going to shoot the air out first, and then liquid will follow. So Brian, go ahead and pump the pedal a couple times.
Pumping, and you really only need to pump this 3 to 5 times. Holding.
Holding. I got to hear that he's holding it because we don't want him to release the pedal. Also, I have a catch bottle here, submersed in fluid. In case he does lift his foot up, I'll suck up fluid instead of air. So I open this up now, and you can see the fluid bubble in there. Boy, those air bubbles are happening. We'll do that about 5, 6, 7 times till the air is all removed. Now another method you could use is gravity bleeding. That's simple. Just come on over, open up the bleeder, and you can see it spray and then start to drip. Just gravity, but be careful with that because some lines go above the master cylinder. And if they go above the master cylinder, gravity won't work. Now sometimes professional shops, or you can go get this tool yourself, they use what's called a vacuum bleeder. Now a vacuum bleeder hooks up to an air source. Plug that in right here. And what happens, it creates air pressure in here, it creates a vacuum. So right now I have a vacuum going on here. I put it on the bleeder, I open it up, and I actually pull the brake fluid from the master cylinder all the way through. Non-intrusive, great tool, doesn't do any damage to the system. One other method is actually pressure bleeding. That's where you put an apparatus on top of the master cylinder, you push the fluid from the top to the bottom, but it's critical that you get the air out of the system. If you open the whole system, start with your right rear, go to your left rear, then your right front, and then your left front. Always work back to the closest to the master cylinder. We got the air out. We'll get this thing buttoned up. It's time for the email question of the week.
John, Nikki from Dayton, Ohio wrote in this week. She's got an '04 Mustang that she had a spongy brake pedal on. She knew enough to bleed the brakes to try to get the air out of the system, but not too long after that, the spongy pedal came back. What's going on with Nikki's Mustang?
Well, Nikki, brake fluid doesn't last forever. There's a term called hygroscopic, and what that means, it absorbs water, and brake fluid does just that. If you leave your cap off, or over time, 100,000 miles, it's time to freshen up the brake fluid. You know, we got a really cool demo here because I took some brake fluid out of that pickup truck, which has 100,000 miles, and we left the cap off all day while we were working on it. So it absorbed some water, and we put some .4 in here. So get your goggles on. Let's fire this up and see if this thing will boil.
All right.
Now, there's different types of brake fluids.
Yeah, we got .3, 4, and 5. We get a lot of questions around that for which applications. I can tell you this, whatever your vehicle calls for, has been engineered and designed for, is exactly what you should use.
Yeah, and it's just a higher boiling point. It's .3, .4, and .5, but very important. .3 and .4 are glycol-based fluids. .5 is silicone-based fluid. So you want to put 5 in those special applications. But 3 and 4 are interchangeable. If your car calls for 4, you have to use 4. But if your car calls for 3, you can go ahead and raise the boiling point a little bit with 4. Now we had this burn at the same time and at the same rate, and we got our water here burning. That boiling point shot. This one here hasn't even started burning yet.
Now both of these are .4, so this is .4 with moisture in it. This is .4 right out of the bottle, and you can absolutely see if it's boiling like that in the brake lines, John, no way I'm getting full maximum braking potential.
She just keeps getting a spongy pedal over and over again. Go ahead and freshen up the brake fluid. We'll go ahead and shut that off. You know, I sure had a ball working on that truck. Once again, it's a, wow, those brakes upgrading, whether you're towing or not, that thing's gonna stop on a dime.
You know, or it might be just you're adding a little more power. I don't know, supercharger on the truck? What do you think?
That's a great idea. You might want to join us next week. From our garage to your garage. Thanks for watching Tech Garage.
Production assistance for Tech Garage is provided by Chipola College, located in Marianna, Florida. Founded in 1947, Chipola was recently ranked as one of the top 3 community colleges in the United States.